already have the metric system, but we also need to talk the U.S. customary system. Unfortunately, the U.S. customary system is not nearly as simple. We have a lot of facts, basically, that we have to memorize. Okay, when we're talking length, we're going with feet, inches, yards, and miles. So this is for length or distance. When we're talking weight, we are working with ounces, pounds, and tons, capital T. And when we're working with capacity, we have even more of them. We have gallons, quarts, pints, cups, and fluid ounces. So we're going to put FLOZ to make sure that we're paying attention to the difference between just regular ounces and fluid ounces. So unfortunately, these are not on powers of 10. 10 inches isn't a foot. 10 feet isn't a yard. 10 yards isn't a mile. So we have to, the same for ounces and pounds and tons. So we have to memorize some, basically some ratios of what's equivalent to each other. So let's start with length. So we have feet. And we can write that 1 foot is equivalent to 12 inches. And writing it like this is going to be helpful in a minute when we're actually using this to figure out another length. So we're going to write it like that. Another thing that we can say is there's 3 feet and 1 yard. Using that logic, we can say there's 36 inches and 1 yard. If anybody has this memorized, we have 5,280 inches in feet. What am I thinking? Feet in 1 mile. I don't have memorized how many inches are in a mile. We could divide by 12 or multiply by 12, I guess, if I really want to. And just for kicks and giggles, we have 1,760 yards in 1 mile. So we have to memorize these, and hopefully for the most part we're familiar with these. Then we also need to do the same thing for our weight. Okay, we have ounces, pounds, and tons. So we can say that 16 ounces are in 1 pound. And we can say that there's 2,000 pounds in 1 ton. And those are the ones that we also need to have memorized here. Luckily, only 2 of them. When we get to capacity, we have another little fun story that will help us remember because there's a lot more of them. We have gallons, quarts, pints, cups, and ounces. Fluid ounces. So here's our story. We have another king. This is King George. This big old G stands for George. King George had 4 queens. You can see the 4 Q's inside of him, 4 queens. That means that, I need 1, why are you doing this to me? 1 gallon is equivalent to 4 quarts. Okay, King George had 4 queens. Each queen had a prince and a princess, so 2 children. So we can say that 1 quart is 2 pints. You can see that we have 2 P's inside each Q. Now, each prince or princess, they each had 2 crowns, 1 for the ball, 1 for the mall. So we can say that 2 cups is equivalent to 1 pint. So you notice over here, I actually just realized I did this on accident. Over here I have the 1 on the top, and right here I have the 1 on the bottom. It really doesn't matter what you do. It'll matter a little bit later, but as long as you stay consistent within the problem that you're working, it's not a big deal. And then each crown had 8 opals. So we can say that 8 fluid ounces, that's not how you spell fluid. Fluid ounces is 1 cup. All right, so that's our story. King George had 4 queens. Each queen had a prince and a princess. Each prince or princess had 2 crowns, and each crown had 8 opals. Okay, so now we have to remember all of that to start working some problems. So let's pull up a problem here. In a soccer game, Derek scored a goal from a corner kick. Derek was 33 feet from the goal. How many yards from the goal was he? Okay, now some of us, I realize, can do this in our head. And the point of this is not to, make this very difficult and spend forever showing a lot of work, but it is important as students work through some of these problems and we get to more difficult ones that we can prove what we're thinking. So we're going to use those ratios that we were showing later. You can't see that. Let's see. Let's turn that off. We're going to use these, not these ones, those ones. These ratios. We're going to use these ratios to show our thinking. So we're going to come back to here. I'm going to say, okay, so Derek was 33 feet from the goal. How many yards? So the two units that we're working with are feet and yards because it gave us the answer in feet. It wants it's in yards. So we need to start off with a ratio that we know about feet and yards. So we can say that there's 3 feet in 1 yard. All right. And then we're going to say, okay, where does the question want us to go? We need an equivalent ratio that's actually in the amount that it wants. Okay, so it wants 33 feet. And this is what I was talking about earlier. I put the 1 down here, the 1 yard. It's fine if it went on the top as long as the yards stay on top and the feet stay on bottom on your other one. So I'm going to keep my feet up here. I'll keep my yards down here, but you can do it the opposite way if you really want to. Okay, so now to get from 3 to 33, basically we're just doing equivalent fractions like we've been doing since 4th grade. We can multiply the top by 11. If I multiply the bottom by 11, I need to put the same answer because it's really like we're just multiplying it by 11 over 11, which is 1. So we end up with 11 yards. So Derek kicked the ball 11 yards. All right, so there's that. And you can do that with inches. You can do that with miles. You can do that with whatever you need. Okay, so now let's look at this one. We'll do one with weight. So we say each Chromebook weighs 56 ounces. How many pounds do they each weigh? And we have to, once again, go back to our ratios that we remember. So that there's 16 ounces in a pound. So that's what I'm going to start off with, is writing a ratio that I already know about the 2 units that I'm working with. And then we're going to end up going somewhere. Okay, we're going to 56 ounces. Okay, and I got to figure out how many pounds that is. Now, most of us probably do not have memorized how to get from 16 to 56. But we know that our fact families tell us 16 times something is 56, which means 56 divided by 16 will give it that something. And students are totally allowed to use calculators on these problems, by the way. So 56 divided by 16 is 3.5. So that means 16 times 3.5 is 56. So if I multiply the top by 3.5, I got to multiply the bottom by 3.5. Really just multiplying it by 1, and we end up with 3.5 pounds. Okay, so there's one on weight. Now let's look at one on the capacity. Mrs. Stone water bottle holds 52 fluid ounces. How many cups? So we've got to, once again, start with that ratio that we know about fluid ounces. And we can say that there's 8 fluid ounces. Why do I keep putting a T there? Fluid ounces in 1 cup. My water bottle holds 52 fluid ounces. How many cups is that? This is where we're trying to go. Once again, might not have this memorized, but if you know that 8 times 6 is 48, it takes 4 more to get to 52. So we would assume that's 6.5. We'll just double check our work. 52 divided by 8, 6.5. So times by 6.5, times by 6.5, we get 6.5 cups. So that's how you do those. So there you go. You've got your metric system and your US customary system. The metric system, super easy with its powers of 10. The customary system, a little more complicated, but we can do it.